Hi, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel. As you beautiful smart people can tell by the title, I'm going to do a These Books Will Self-Destruct video. Now, I do have a few books that I've had for quite a while and haven't gotten to yet, but I didn't want to go crazy and make this list super long because my physical TBR isn't that big. It's probably around 60 to 65 books right now physically, so today I have 8 books that will self-destruct in 1 year if I don't get to them soon. Without further ado, let's dive in. The first book that will self-destruct is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This copy my husband bought for me for 50 cents at a Goodwill, but it was like probably 6 years ago now at this point. I think I was pregnant and he was texting me pictures of the bookshelves and he was like, do you see anything you like? And I saw the pink title on the spine and I recognized it off of that. So I said, hey, snag that for me. He was like, okay, cool, it's 50 cents. And I really want to give this a try. I feel like I really like sci-fi in visual media and I don't ever reach for it in books except like super rarely, and I need to change that. So I am really hoping that this is the boost I need to finally pick up Leviathan Wakes, which is the first book in the Expanse series, which was a TV show, I believe, on the Sci-Fi Channel. The synopsis says, humanity has colonized the solar system, Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, and beyond, but the stars are still out of our reach. Jim Holden is XO of an ice miner making runs from the rings of Saturn to the mining stations of the belt. When he and his crew stumble upon a derelict ship, the Scopuli, they find themselves in possession of a secret they never wanted, a secret that someone is willing to kill for, and kill on a scale unfathomable to Jim and his crew. War is brewing in the system unless he can find out who left the ship and why. Detective Miller is looking for a girl, one girl in a system of billions, but her parents have money and money talks. When the trail leads him to the Scopuli, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, and rebel sympathizer Holden, he realizes that this girl may be the key to everything. Holden and Miller must thread the needle between the Earth government and outer planet revolutionaries and secretive corporations, but the odds are against them. But out in the belt, the rules are different and one small ship can change the fate of the universe. This honestly sounds really good. And I know that the synopsis for book 1 is just the surface of this series, but I have heard nothing but great things about this. As a matter of fact, I was just recently watching Kaz from Little Book Owl on Reading Sprints on Twitch, I think a week ago from the time that I'm filming this. And she was reading a book further down in the series, and I had mentioned that I had been meaning to get to it forever, and she was saying that she really is enjoying it. And I was watching her on Sprints when she was at the very end and she was making these like shocked expressions. So I know that like obviously it's gonna be a really expansive world and series, and I know that it has a lot of fans. I just need to push myself to finally pick it up. I think I'm a little intimidated because it's such a chunky sci-fi, but Kaz did also say that it's not too heavy on like the science terminology. So hopefully now, with having just talked about it with her and then this push with the self-destruct list, it will get me to finally pick up this book. The next book I have here is Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton. Now this is the third in the Fortuna Sworn series. I binged the first 2 books back to back when I first heard about them. I believe it was Becca in the Books who had talked about them, and I picked them up on her recommendation and I loved them so much. However, I waited way too long to continue the series, and now I need to reread the first 2 in order to get to this one. And I'm just doing this as a push to myself that if I don't get to it in the next year, I need to unhaul it, because this has already been sitting on my shelf for about 2 years now, and I really loved the first book. The synopsis for the first book is essentially there's a woman named Fortuna Sworn, and she is something called a nightmare. She can change her appearance to be like your greatest desire or your worst nightmare, and she had her younger brother like went missing when they were younger, and then when we meet her in book 1, she's currently being held captive and she's like being sold at a market for magical creatures, and then a sexy fae man comes to save her, and he's like, I will give you information that you need if you marry me. And it's kind of like a marriage of convenience, forced proximity trope, but there is also like a lot of nuance in Fortuna, and the series itself is just really fun. There are so many crazy things that happen in book 1 and book 2. Definitely look up trigger warnings though if you're gonna read that series. For I think there's sexual assault on page and like death of a loved one and just some heavy topics. But that being said, I love this series. I really loved the first 2 books a lot and I need to pick it up. That's gonna be the theme this whole book, is I need to pick it up, and I haven't yet, clearly. The next book I have is And I Darken by Kirsten White. Now this, I believe, is like a Vlad the Impaler reimagining. I actually just recently read Lucy Undying by Kirsten White and I was obsessed with it. So I have been eyeing this one a little bit lately because now I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm missing out on a fantastic book here. I'm just a little wary because I read Kirsten's other book, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, and I didn't love it. I gave it like a 3. It was fine. This one says, no one expects a princess to be brutal, and Leda Dragwyla likes it that way. Ever since she and her gentle younger brother, Radu, were wrenched from their homeland of Wallachia and abandoned by their father to be raised in the Ottoman courts, Leda has known that being ruthless is the key to survival. She and Radu are doomed to act as pawns in a vicious game, an unseen sword hovering over their every move. For the lineage that makes them special also makes them targets. Leda despises the Ottomans and bides her time, planning her vengeance for the day when she can return to Wallachia and claim her birthright. Radu longs only for a place where he feels safe. And when they meet Mehmed, the defiant and lonely son of the Sultan, Radu feels that he's made a true friend, and Leda wonders if she's finally found something worthy of her passion. But Mehmed is heir to the very empire that Leda has sworn to fight against, and that Radu now considers home. Together, Leda, Radu, and Mehmed form a toxic triangle that strains the bonds of love and loyalty to the breaking point. I'm not gonna lie, that synopsis didn't really tell me anything. I'm very confused as to what the plot actually is. Am I just stupid? I feel like that synopsis gave us a lot of names and places, but not so much like plot threads. Interesting. Anyways, I would like to pick this up because of the other book I just read by her. However, after reading the synopsis now, I'm not so sure if I do want to pick it up. Maybe this will be one that I have to try from audio from the library, because then I can try to listen to it quickly before I like lose the will to read it and then end up ultimately unhauling it. The next book I have here is Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. I loved Kings of the Wild when I first read it. Again, don't know why I have yet to reach for the second one, but it's been so long that I would love to reread Kings of the Wild so I can get to this one. I think that Kings of the Wild was just like so fun. It was just pure entertainment. The characters were like silly and a little serious. The plot was silly and a little serious. Like it had a lot of humor, and then there were also some like touching moments, and I just thought it was like a great like love letter to the fantasy genre, and I really enjoyed it. So now I need to continue with this one. In book 1, we follow a band, an adventuring party, if you will, and they are retired. They're old men, and one of them one day shows up at the other's house and is like, hey, my daughter's gone, help me find her. And he's like, I don't know about that one, chief, I'm an old man. And then his daughter is like, daddy, you should go help her, because if that was me, you would want help too, right? So then they go off on this adventure to get the band back together, go rescue his daughter Rose, and it's just a silly, goofy, fun time. Need to read the second one. I don't want to have to unhaul this one, so future Rachel, you better have fucking read this book. The next book I have is A Magic Steeped in Poison by Judy Eilen. I remember when this book first came out and it was getting so much hype, and the cover is gorgeous, like don't get me wrong. I don't know what it is about this book. I've lost interest in it, but I'm also like not willing to get rid of it just yet. So this was actually gifted to me by my friend Shay. She gets a lot of publisher mail, and then she so generously does like a couple unhauls a year and will ask our friend group like, hey, does anyone want any of these before I donate them? This was one that I had said, oh my gosh, let me get that, because again, it was hyped at the time, but now I'm just not sure. The synopsis says, for Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her mother, the poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister, Shu. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest Shenong Shi masters of the ancient and magical art of tea making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, the bloody court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one in more danger. Like, again, that sounds so good and intriguing, but I don't know. There's something about it that makes me feel like maybe I'm just not gonna love it. I don't know if this is YA also. I think it might be, but I would still be interested to read this because I feel like there could be a really strong sisterly love dynamic in here. I hope that when I read this, if when she goes to the kingdom for the competition, like I really hope that sisterly dynamic doesn't get like pushed to the wayside, because I feel like that happens a lot in these kind of books where it's like you're trying to save your sister, you're trying to save your mother. Like I feel like at the beginning it's like so tense, like oh my gosh, I need to save this person I love, and then they go like on a quest or they go do something, and then it's like we like stop talking about that, we stop like hearing about it, and it's like aren't you still worried about like your loved one that is like apparently dying? So I don't know, I have some qualms about this. I'm not sure if I will love it. I bought into the hype initially when it was first coming out, so if I don't get to this in a year, I guess we'll know the answer. The next book I have here is actually one that's on my 5-star predictions video, which I will link in the card and down below for you. However, after posting that video, it came to my attention that The Sword of Kagan by M.L. Wang has airplanes in it. And I thought this was fantasy. And don't get me wrong, like urban fantasy is the thing, right? Like I get it, but I don't want to be reading about like an urban fantasy and then all of a sudden there's like a fucking fighter jet like flying by, and I'm really sad because I thought I was gonna love it. I still really want to read it. However, I'm giving myself a year because I predicted it as a 5-star read. And now it's like if I don't get to it soon after finding out about the airplane situation, then maybe I just need to get rid of this because it's not for me. The synopsis says, on a mountainside at the edge of the Kaganese Empire lived the most powerful fighters in the world, warriors capable of raising the sea and wielding blades of ice. For centuries, fighters of the Kusanagi Peninsula have held the Empire's enemies at bay, earning their treacherous spit of land the name the Sword of Kagan. Born into Kusanagi's legendary Matsuda family, 14-year-old Momori has always known his purpose, to master his family's fighting techniques and defend his homeland. But when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain on Kaigan's alleged age of peace, Mamoru realizes that he might not have much time before he has become the fighter he was bred to be. Even worse, the empire he was born to defend might stand on a foundation of lies. Misaki told herself that she left the passions of her youth behind when she married into the Matsuda house. Determined to be a good housewife and mother, she hid away her sword along with everything from her days as a fighter in a faraway country. But with her son asking questions about the outside world, the threat of invasion looming on the horizon, and her frigid husband grating on her nerves, Misaki finds the fighter in her clawing its way back to the surface. When the winds of war reach their peninsula, will the Matsuda family have the strength to defend their empire? Or will they tear each other apart before the true enemies ever reach their shore? Okay, knowing what I know about the airplanes and rereading this synopsis now for the first time since I found out about the airplanes, maybe this place they live is like secluded from technology, because it says something about when an outsider arrives and pulls back the curtain on Kaigan's alleged age of peace. Okay. I'm readjusting my thoughts and expectations. maybe this won't be so bad if there's airplanes in here. If you've read this, please let me know. Is the urbanness like a major factor in here? I just need to have the proper expectations going in because I thought it was just straight up fantasy based on the description. And if I go in expecting one thing and I find out another, I will probably not like it. And I really want to like it so bad because I've heard great things about this author. So please let me know about this one if you've read it. The next book I have here is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This one was, again, gifted to me by my friend Danny. I think that she had got this in Book of the Month and then she read it and she was like, it was fine. I don't know if I'll ever reread it. Do you want it? And I was like, sure. Can't say no to a free book because I had been interested in this when it came out. The synopsis says, hidden in the depths of 18th century London, a secret apothecary shop caters to an unusual kind of clientele. Women across the city whisper of a mysterious figure named Nella who sells well-disguised poisons to use against the oppressive men in their lives. Nella's dark world is no place for her newest patron, a precocious 12-year-old girl named Eliza Fanning. But their unexpected bond sparks a string of consequences that echoes through the centuries. 200 years later, aspiring historian Caroline Parswell discovers an aged apothecary vial in the River Thames. As she is newly grappling with the searing betrayal of her husband's infidelity, a curious research project is exactly the distraction Caroline needs. But when she discovers a link between the vial and London's long unsolved apothecary murders, Caroline's upended present soon collides with an explosive history, binding her fate to Nella's and Eliza's in a stunning twist that transcends the barrier of time. Okay, actually, hold on. I haven't read the synopsis of this in literally so long. That sounds really good. If you've ever read Wayward by Amelia Hart, that has a similar premise where there is a character that's in like the present day and they have history and are somehow interconnected to two characters in the past. And it definitely has a similar vibe of like this one obviously is like abusive, shitty husbands or men. And again, in Wayward by Amelia Hart, it is like abusive, shitty men taking advantage of women. And I loved Wayward. I gave it 5 stars. If you read it, look up trigger warnings. It is no joke. That book is fucking dark as hell. Beautiful, but dark. So this actually gives me hope. My enthusiasm for this book has officially been renewed. So hopefully this will get read and I don't have to unhaul it. And the final book on my self-destruct list today is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. I won this book in an Instagram giveaway hosted by the Doylestown Bookshop, and the winner of the giveaway received a copy of this book. It has a signed bookplate. And I also got to go to a Zoom interview with Christopher himself. An employee from the bookshop was interviewing him live on Zoom, and me and a few other giveaway winners got to be like audience members of this interview and ask questions directly to Christopher himself. And it was honestly such a fun experience. I have never read a book by him. However, he was just such a sweet guy. Like, he was really cool. He was super enthusiastic about chatting with us and talking to the interviewer and answering all kinds of questions just about his books, writing in general, and just like random life stuff. And he was just so cool and chill. This terrible guilt over not reading this book. I think I'm going to love it. Again, like Leviathan Wakes, I am really intimidated by big sci-fi for some reason, but I need to get to this, and so this is going to be my push. If I don't fucking read this beautiful book by 1 year from now, I need to get rid of it. I need to unhaul it. And on top of being stunning, it sounds cool as hell. The synopsis says, Kira Navarez dreamed of life on New Worlds. Now she's awakened a nightmare. During a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, Kira finds an alien relic. At first, she's delighted, but elation turns to terror when the ancient dust around her begins to move. As war erupts among the stars, Kira is launched into a galaxy-spanning odyssey of discovery and transformation. First contact isn't at all what she imagined, and events push her to the very limits of what it means to be human. While Kira faces her own horrors, Earth and its colonies stand upon the brink of annihilation. Now Kira might be humanity's greatest and final hope. And then on the back of the book, it says, space holds countless secrets, and she just found the deadliest one. Like, this sounds so good. I feel like this is going to be sci-fi with like a dash of horror, which is like my favorite genre of movie, which is like my favorite genre of movies. And yet, here I am sitting on a gold mine and I just haven't read it yet. I really need to get my shit together, read this book, and read all of these books on this list, because in 1 year, poof, they will be gone. I would love to know if you've read any of the books on my self-destruct list and which ones do you think that I should prioritize sooner rather than later. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, leave the UFO emoji down in the comments, and I will see you in another one soon. Bye!